Hey guys, welcome back to Walk and Study. Today we will be going over one of the simplest and most important verb tenses in English, the simple past tense. As we work through this lesson today, we will be walking through Safeway, which is a regional grocery store chain in the United States. Before we get into the ways this verb tense changes with different subjects, which are also known as the verb forms or verb conjugations, let's go over when to use the simple past tense. Using the simple past tense is pretty easy. We use simple past when we are talking about actions that started and finished in the past. So we could be talking about actions that started and finished recently, or that started and finished a long time ago, and we use simple past for both. Okay, now let's look at how verb forms change in the simple past tense. Let's use the verb walk as an example. As we can see in the graphic, every subject has the same verb form, and in order to put a verb in the simple past tense, all we need to do is add an ed to the end of the verb. For instance, we would say, "She walked to the store." As you can see, it is pretty easy to use the past tense. All you need to do is add ed to the end of your verbs. For example, we could say, "Tessa and Alexander played volleyball." In this sentence, Tessa and Alexander are our subjects, and the verb play becomes played. We could also say, "Jack's father cooked dinner last night." The subject of this sentence is Jack's father, and the verb cook becomes cooked. Another example might be, "You visited Germany last October." The subject of this sentence is you, and the verb visit becomes visited. One more example. Neil Armstrong walked on the moon in 1969. The subject of this sentence is Neil Armstrong, and the verb walk becomes walked in the simple past tense. Okay, all of those examples used regular verbs in the past simple tense, but there are some important irregular verbs that you do not add an ed to in the past simple tense. These verbs are called irregular verbs because they do not follow the same pattern as other regular verbs. We will make a video in the future about more of the irregular verbs in the past tense, but for now, let's look at 6 of the most important irregular verbs. Our first verb is to do. As you can see in the graphic, when using to do in the simple past, do becomes did for every subject. So we do not say, "Erica doed her English homework yesterday." Instead, we would say, "Erica did her English homework yesterday." Another irregular verb that is used a lot in the simple past is to be. As you can see in the graphic, when using to be in the simple past, be becomes was or were. If your subject is I, or he, she, it, be becomes was. And if your subject is you, we, or they, be becomes were. For example, we could say, "Jamal was a student a long time ago." Since our subject is Jamal, to be becomes was. We could also say, They were in Canada last week. Since our subject is they, to be becomes were. The third irregular verb that is used a lot in the simple past tense is to have. As you can see in the graphic, when using to have in the simple past, have becomes had. As you can see, have becomes had for every subject in the simple past tense. For example, we could say, I had pizza for dinner last night. We could also say, we had fun on New Year's Eve. The fourth irregular verb is to go. As you can see in the graphic, when using to go in the simple past tense, go becomes went, and we use went for every subject in the simple past tense. For example, we would say, they went to the market on Tuesday, or she went to Australia last year, and we would not say, they goed to the market on Tuesday, or she goed to Australia last year. The fifth irregular verb is to give. As you can see in the graphic, give becomes gave in the simple past tense, and we use gave for every subject in the simple past tense. For example, we would say, my aunt gave me a present last night. The sixth irregular verb is to come. As you can see in the graphic, come becomes came in the simple past tense, and we use came for every subject in the simple past tense. For example, we would say, my sister came to visit me in Spain last year. All right, let's practice. Pause the video and write down 6 sentences in simple past tense with each of the irregular verbs we just talked about. For the first 25 comments, I will read through your sentences and correct any problems for you. Good luck. Okay, now let's talk about how to make negative sentences in the simple past tense. As you can see in the graphic, when making negative sentences in the simple past tense, all we need to do is add the auxiliary verb did not in front of whatever our main verb is, and we do not add ed to the main verb. For example, we would say, I did not talk to my sister yesterday. In this example, the auxiliary verb did not is in front of the main verb talk. One thing to remember, in spoken English, Americans will almost always use the short form or the contraction of did not, so our sentence becomes, I didn't talk to my sister yesterday. One exception to this rule is when we are using the to be verb in the simple past tense in a negative sentence. As you can see in the graphic, we add the word not after the to be verb. So we would say, they were not in Spain on Thursday, or she was not at work on Monday. Okay, now let's look at how to make questions in the simple past tense. As you can see in the graphic, to make a question in the simple past tense, all we need to do is add the word did in front of the subject, which comes in front of the main verb. As you can see, did stays the same for each subject. For example, we would ask, did she sleep last night? Or, did they sleep last night? We use the same format to make questions in the simple past with both regular and irregular verbs. So if we wanted to use the verb to go in a question in the past tense, we would still put did at the beginning of the sentence, and we would put go, not went, after the subject. For example, we would say, did she go to the Caribbean last summer? Not, did she went to the Caribbean last summer? If we want to respond to this question in the affirmative, we say, yes, my sister went to the Caribbean last summer. If we want to respond to this question in the negative, we say, no, my sister didn't go to the Caribbean last summer. All right, let's practice. Pause the video and write down 3 negative sentences in the past tense and 3 questions in the past tense. For the first 25 comments, I will read through your sentences and correct any problems for you. Good luck. Okay, I hope you all added some sentences to the comments. I look forward to reading what everyone came up with. With that, we've gone over the simple past tense in English. This is a basic tense, but a very important tense. I hope this lesson was helpful to you all. As always, subscribe below, give us a like if you found the video helpful, and let us know in the comments section what else you'd like to learn about or see in our next walk and study lesson. Thanks guys, take care.